Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mormon Stories Podcast. My name is John DeLynn. I'm your host. It's April 12th, 2017. We're broadcasting to you. We're recording and broadcasting live to you today from my home, my soon-to-be former home in North Logan, Utah. And we have, every time I say this, we've had so many epic stories on Mormon Stories. But today's interview, I think, is truly epic and powerful and interesting. And we're going to do it. It's going to be one of those 3-4 hour interviews, maybe longer, who knows. But there's a lot of really cool stuff in this story. So today we're interviewing Lance and Nicki Miles.
Hello, John.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Nicki?
I'm very nervous.
Super nervous.
Yeah, super nervous.
All right.
Yeah.
Lance, how about you?
Yes, I just snorted. I'm so nervous.
Say hello to Snorted.
Yeah.
Say hello to at least 60 people who are joining us live on Facebook
Thank
Live.
you.
Thanks for
We're really
watching.
hoping you guys will share with us your comments and questions live as well. But just to give you a real preview of what this epic story is about, Lance and Nicki both, for the most part, grew up in Utah. Some of the things we'll be covering, Nicki's father died when she was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about how that really sealed and connected her to the church at a very young age. Turns out that Lance and Nicki experienced quite a bit of sexual shame and discomfort, and even, I'd say, a little bit of trauma from their adolescent years into their mission experiences. So we'll be able to talk about that. It turns out that Lance's father, who had served as bishop for many years in his ward in Eden, Utah, ended up coming out as gay in the 80s after serving as bishop.
90s.
In the 90s, late 90s. And that's kind of traumatic for a Eden, Utah family to have their former bishop dad come out as gay. We're going to talk about how that was handled. And it is a bit of a tragic story, but there are some happy endings as well. But we're going to talk about how Lance and his family handled the coming out of their gay father, who ended up passing away from cancer.
Yeah, leukemia.
Leukemia. So we'll talk about that. Then after all that, Lance and Nicki have their own Mormon transition, which we'll talk about, which culminated in their meeting with Marlon K. Jensen, who had just been released as church historian. So they spent a good hour and a half with Marlon K. Jensen, and we'll talk about how that did help, but it may not have helped in the way you might think it would have helped, or it may have helped in the exact way you would think. But this is part of a series on meetings with general authorities. So we did the one with Trevor.
Right.
This is going to be one, and we're going to have a few more interviews about people's meetings with general authorities. But this is one of those epic stories that we couldn't just only talk about the time with Marlon Jensen. Then, if that isn't enough, we're going to talk about Nicki's feminist awakening, which happened, which then led to Lance's feminist awakening, which then led to all sorts of trouble in their marriage. Because when patriarchy reigns for a couple decades, it turns out it's not a trivial thing to readjust the marriage without patriarchy as the foundation.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to just talk about kind of where they are now with the church and with their kids and how they've all worked through that. Have we covered is there anything else epic?
I think that's pretty good.
Is that pretty good?
Yeah, that's a good outline. Yeah.
All right. So welcome again. Thanks for those listening and joining us, watching on YouTube, but also everyone joined us live. We're now up to 100 people who have joined us live,
Nice.
which is a really good number. So we'll be taking your questions and comments throughout the interview. So please start posting. But with all that, welcome all the way from Eugene, Oregon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. We really, really appreciate this opportunity to share.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, so Nicki, just because you're your part of the story maybe is the first real kind of gripping part of the story. Why don't we talk about your family's background as it relates to the church, and kind of talk us up to the point of how your dad and his passing sort of affected your membership in those early years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, grew up in Price, Utah. I was actually born in Ogden, but grew up in Price until I was 13 years old. Had a pretty great childhood, and my parents they were active, but it was in and out. My dad had some alcohol problems, and he smoked and was constantly trying to quit and be active in the church. But overall, I had a really fantastic childhood, was very close with my dad. I was a very quiet child, and so I opened up with him when he was one of the people that he would take me fishing, and we'd sit on the bank and I would open up to him. So he continued doing that just with me, and it was very, very connecting and special. And when I was 13, he was in a coal mining accident and was killed, and left my mom with 4 children, ranging from the age of, I believe my sister was 17, I was 13, and then I have a younger sister and a younger brother. My younger sister, I believe, was 8 or 9, and my little brother was 5. So my mom was widowed with 4 young kids at a very young age.
And you were living in Price at the time.
We were in Price.
So there's a coal mine in Price.
There's many coal mines, yeah.
Carbon
County.
Yeah.
Oh, Carbon County.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come from a family of coal miners. My mom comes from a family of 13 kids. There's 10 of them. She's number 12. There's 10 girls. 10 girls, 3 boys. I was always taught to be a strong, confident woman, that women could do anything, and there were amazing things that people in my family achieved, women in my family achieved, and I had great examples and great instruction on how to be strong, how to be confident. And my mom was a convert at the age of, when she was in junior high, she would go to seminary with her friend, and then she took the missionary lessons. Her mother didn't allow her to get married until she was out of the house, and so baptized. I'm sorry. So she married my dad and got baptized, and so they brought us to church on Sundays, and when my dad wouldn't go, my mom would bring us. So it was very confusing for me as a child growing up, as a young woman growing up, because I wanted to be confident and strong and have that place in the world that I deserved as a woman, but I was being told different in church, so it was very contradictory and very confusing for me. But when my dad died, I have an analogy that I use in my head that with the church, I chose to be in the church, and I made that choice on my own. It wasn't anyone's fault or anything bad that happened to me being in the church. I chose to tie these bows, and when the first bow I tied was when my dad passed away, and I clung on to the church for many reasons. The hope that we would be a forever family was there. The hope that it would help my mom, that it would give her support, because my older sister, who I love more than anything in this world, she went off and did her thing. She was old enough that she was ready. She didn't want to be in the home during all the sadness and trauma, and she chose to heal a different way, by leaving. And I was then the head child in the home, and feeling like I needed to take some of that pressure off of my mom, and so really dove into that role. And then so that was the first bow that I tied, and that was the one that always stuck, because no matter what I did, if I did wrong, I could repent and it could be forgiven of me, and then I would have that chance to be with my dad again. But only if I was good and only if I kept the commandments. And so I struggled with guilt a lot for any actions that I did wrong that would keep me from that. So that was the first bow that tied me to the church, and it was a strong one. It was, and it helped. The church was not a bad place for me to go. Was it the only place and the only good way for me to be a 13-year-old without a dad? No, but it wasn't all bad.
Sure.
But it certainly kept me in the state of mind that my decisions and my plan was laid out for me.
Right, it kind of locks you in.
It did. I was locked in, and I had locked myself in. I had chosen to serve a mission. I chose all those things to get married in the temple and to have kids and raise them in the church. How many younger
siblings again? How many younger siblings?
So I have an older sister, a younger sister, and hi, Dee Dee. Hi, Michelle. And Jared is my younger brother. So
okay.
There's 4 of us.
So there's 4 total. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then my mom remarried.
Right.
And he has 6 kids, so they're I'm right in the middle of all of them. Some of them, yeah. Okay. So good relationships with them.
I think of you being tied to the church in 2 ways by 13. One is trying to keep your eternal family together, and then the other is trying to be the good, supportive child to your mom, who had been through a lot, and your siblings needed you. So you don't like me using the term Nephi, but unfortunately we don't have a female equivalent.
It really was.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were trying to be the righteous, faithful kid.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I'm sure your family benefited from the social support the church provided.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was definitely that.
And spiritual and moral and community and all that stuff.
I think one thing that's really important to say here, because some of my friends and stuff are Christians who believe that when they die, they'll just be with their family. But in Mormonism, we don't believe that. If you don't get married in the temple, then you are forever alone. You're not with your family after this life. And so it's very important to have that family continuity, the sealing in the temple. And so, yeah.
Well, it's what I believed. I believed that it could happen. So.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a great intro to your story. Lance, let's pick up on your story a little bit. Tell us about your upbringing, and then we'll merge them together.
So I was kind of the opposite of Nicki, I think, as far as my parents go. We not really opposite, but
there's a difference.
There is a difference. Born in Eden, Utah, in 1973. Yes, very conservative rural area, and had a great life. My parents, we had a farm, and the church meant everything to my family for sure. My mom and dad always struggled to make ends meet, and they did everything possible to provide for us as a family. My dad pretty much built our house on his own from scratch, and he had his main job, and then his second job was at the IRS at night. I'm really sorry that I get so emotional about my dad because I was such a dick to him. I'm sorry to say it that way, but I just was. Anyway, so had a great childhood. Just played around the valley. You've got the lake there, the reservoir, and just had a really fun time. But growing up in the church, we were always very active. You had to be really sick if you were going to miss church, and we had family home evening, family scripture study. We would get really on board for a while, and then it was really tough, and so we would stop for a while, and always going back and forth as my parents struggled to teach the kids the right way to behave and to learn and believe. And so one of the big things that I was really taught in my environment was to only associate with those that are members of the church, with those that hold the same values. And luckily in Eden, there's most of the people are members of the church. And so, I had some decent friends there. Dusty and Ben, if you ever watched this, great kids, to grow up with, really good friends. And, just the typical Mormon life of always going to church every Sunday, paying our tithing, any little bit of money that we made, we'd make sure we paid our tithing on it. And just a hard-working Mormon family. One of the big things that happened to me also kind of this time with Nicki was when I was just about 16 years old. My best friend died, and it was a real tragic thing for me because I had asked this girl out on a date to a dance, and I was a garbage man. And back in the days where you'd be on the back of the truck, and you would throw the garbage cans over. And anyways, I had this dance, and so I didn't want to go and be a garbage man. I wanted it to be clean and not get smelly and everything, and just have the day. So I asked my best friend to work on the truck that day. And he ended up getting ran over by it, getting killed, and that actually was on February 10th, which will come in for another thing. But Nicki's got a niece that was actually born on the day that he died, and so that day has always been a special day to see,
Tender day.
Life and death. For me, but like with Nicki's dad, that death really propelled me to at least understand life better and the plan of salvation and Mormonism, and wanting for his family to see him again. And it was a real hard thing for me. I was already a depressed, introverted teenager, and when my best friend died, it really sent me into a spiral that was really tough.
And was that compounded by pressures, messages around masturbation, porn, sexuality?
Not with my friend's death and him. There was an issue with that because we had been out the previous night, and
the night before he died.
The night before he died, we had gone out, and it was Friday night, and we didn't do anything crazy at all. I mean, it's such stupid things, but they weren't the best for the church, and so it's like. I had regrets and worried feelings, like he didn't get a chance to repent of that, right? What is going to be his eternal salvation now with his family? And so that was a worry to me too, that I was out there to be kind of a culprit, with him. So that was a kind of a guilt that I held on to for sure. But mainly just the tragedy of it, my best friend dying. Really, at that point, my only friend, so it was really hard.
Okay. Did you feel like you had a strong testimony growing up?
That's a great question. I have never had a burning in the bosom. I'm not a very emotional person, except you'll be like, whatever. But I am very logical, and I don't usually get emotional or in a big uproar, and so what was your question again?
So if you ever had a testimony.
Yeah. The testimony, it wasn't that big until my mission. I was much more of going through the motions as a teenager. I was not rebellious. I never partied. I never drank. I tried cigarettes to be a cool kid, but they just were nasty, and but I never was with girls, nothing. And I did have my Eazy-E tape. That was my downfall.
On your mission.
No, not on my mission as a kid. Just as a teenager.
Is that a rapper? It's a rapper.
Yeah, Eazy-E.
Who's Eazy-E? Is that from?
Shout out to Mark there.
Was that from NWA?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was part of it. I had no clue. I just a white kid that I
So for those of you go see Straight Outta Compton, you'll see what they're talking about.
So I was totally the Office Space, that movie Office Space when the guy's listening to his rap music and then he closes down, locks his car door. But anyways, I was rebellious, but it was pretty small stuff. One time, we would skip church a little bit and go to the store as teenagers, and I did. I mean, admittedly, I stole a piece of candy from the store, and I got caught, and it was during church on Sunday, and it was the worst thing ever. And my dad, he was the bishop then, and I think or he was in the bishopric or something. I can't remember now. I mean, I was pretty young. But I had to be like, I don't know, 13 or something like that. And I was so scared because he had to leave church to come and get his son, who was not only breaking the Sabbath, at a store, but stealing from the store, right? I mean, it was a terrible thing, and I felt so much guilt from it. But my dad came and, he picked me up and we got in the car, and the only words he said was, "I'm very disappointed in you, Lance."
Mm.
And that was enough for me. I just, he didn't need to scream and yell. I disappointed my dad.
Mm.
So I really wanted to be a good kid. I had a great brother. I have 4 siblings. There's 5 of us kids. My oldest brother, he's the oldest. And then I've got 2 older sisters and then a younger sister, and so anyways, so that was the extent really of my bad teenage childhood. But I was a pretty stay-at-home, withdrawn, quiet kid.
And again, your dad was your bishop from what ages?
I don't know exactly. It was my teenage years up until about my mission, so
Okay.
Probably about 13 to 18-ish.
Wow, that's
19.
right then.
So
That's
yeah,
right.
it was right during my teenage years. Yeah, and it was tough. It was tough, and I feel.
Did you have to confess stuff to him?
Oh yeah, and
like what?
And well. We'll get into that in a minute more, but it was tough having him as a bishop, mainly because I was looked upon differently, right? The bishop's son is supposed to be the good one, and so this incident really, was not good, and it was not good for our family. The rumors and family status and everything. Obviously, everybody in the valley, old families up there, that have been there for generations, and so
Most people know your business.
Yeah, everybody knows each other's business there. Used to be anyway. So, anyways, but so it was tough going through those teenagers with my dad as a bishop.
Okay. So you hit the mission. That's when things start getting interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, let's first discuss about us.
Oh yeah.
We met
Yeah.
in seminary.
Yeah, that's right. That was my
Yeah.
next question.
Yeah.
So when did you guys meet? Yeah.
We met as seniors in our seminary class, and
Which high school?
Weber High.
Weber High.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ogden.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Warriors.
All right, Weber Warriors. Yeah.
Go ahead and black.
So yeah, we met in our seminary class and just kind of fell head over heels in love and what we thought was love, and really developed a bad relationship, a codependent relationship. He had.
How did you think of it at the time?
No, I don't think I recognized that at the
So
time.
at the time, how
we
was
were
it?
just
Yeah.
close to each other, and sharing the grief that we had. We had shared.
You'd
grief
lost your
with
dad.
right.
He'd lost his friends.
Yeah.
You both knew.
Yeah,
loss.
grief, and talked about. We both had the same belief system, and so it just, there was another one of those bows being tied that I tied. I'm going to share this belief system with somebody else, and
Got it.
we're together.
Yeah.
We're gonna be good members, and we're gonna live with these people who we've lost again. And so, yeah, we dated, and Lance got called on his. We graduated from high school, and you got called on your mission.
So, I mean, when we talk about the confessing things.
Oh yeah.
So you guys
Yes.
were a little
So-
too friendly.
We
Yeah.
we met in our senior year in high school, and we just fell in love with each other, and just every aspect was so great with each other, and we were way too hot and heavy for both of our parents. My dad
together all the time.
And we were always together.
Well,
it was
we were
5-6
each
days a week.
other's
We
friend.
were So obviously, when you love somebody, you lust after somebody. You're teenagers.
You're codependent
You're
on
codependent.
them.
We got pretty close.
Got pretty attached really
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
And we were.
Yeah, so there were times when we had to go, and because I always felt guilty about everything, every little thing, and so I was always going in to confess.
Not to his dad though, different bishop.
To a different bishop. I had been to, and I would like to maybe get into that at a different time. My experiences with going in and confessing to priesthood authority.
Yeah.
Because I had some negative things.
But it was your own bishop, not his dad.
It was my own bishop,
Yeah.
but then there was a time when we both went in together
yeah,
and talked to
talked
his
about
dad
And it was
as
really
his bishop.
when I was, getting ready on my
To
mission.
go on the
and
mission, we wanted to make
making
sure
sure
everything
that-
was
yeah.
on the level
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so and obviously that was tough, sitting there having to discuss intimate things that weren't,
That shouldn't
that-
have to be discussed with an adult,
Yeah.
let alone
yeah.
a stranger.
Yeah.
Was he wanting details?
My dad
No.
didn't.
He didn't.
My dad.
No.
He didn't want to know.
My dad was cool, he was.
He's like,
He was good with things for sure, but
Yeah.
Nikki's bishop,
Well,
really.
What was your bishop
Several-
like, Nikki?
well, it depends on what bishop,
Okay.
but yeah, I had a bishop once that it was very. So after, should I get into this? This is a little bit yeah.
Does that come after when the mission when you start preparing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, let's follow the timeline.
Okay, that sounds great.
So you guys do enough confessing.
So,
Yeah.
Did you confess everything? I guess.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah.
So no, we didn't.
I don't know.
We didn't.
It was 20 some odd years ago.
In your mind,
John.
We didn't because
your
7
mind-
months later
Well,
something happened.
okay. So let's just go into this really quick because just back to me and my own rigidness with stuff. Although I wasn't doing bad things, I wasn't really doing great things. I hadn't read the Book of Mormon yet, and I'm preparing to go on a mission. I really actually want to get married to Nikki. The last thing I want to do is go on a mission, honestly. But it was expected of me. It is just, this is what you do.
And it's
commanded
expected
of God.
of me to support him and make sure.
Yeah,
he gets on that
exactly. And
mission.
then we're doing things wrong by having a relationship anyways, and the potential that we don't go.
That we're not morally
Yeah,
clean
that we're not
to
morally
go.
clean and go on a mission and everything. So, so there was that aspect of it. But then, one of the things when I was getting ready to go, one of the things I guess it's about my farewell. But my brother said, Lance. He had gone on a mission previously. He's 6 years older than me, and he's like, the only advice that I want to give you is if you go on a mission, stay on your mission. Do not come home. And that was big advice.
Don't come home early.
Don't come home early. Yeah, exactly. You stay on your mission. You either don't go out on your mission, or you make sure that you stay on it. So
make it the full 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I had that in the back of my head. But anyway, so it was a tough thing because I love Nicki so much. But I knew that I had to go on a mission. You know, it was just. I never even consciously said, yes, I'm going to go. It was just expected, you know, I'm just going. And so I put in my papers, and, you know, we get them back, and just really quick with that, I open them up, and I'm excited. I really didn't want to go foreign because I didn't want to learn. I had no language at all, and I didn't want to learn a language. But I went about as foreign as you can get in the United States. I went to the New Mexico Albuquerque mission. Which at the time I was just like, New Mexico, my gosh. And so, anyways, but
his real home was closer. At one point he was on
Yeah.
his mission, and his mission home was further away than his home.
Yeah, I was in Page, Arizona on one part of my mission, and my mission home was in Albuquerque. My home, my real home was closer than it. Now, certainly there are people that are called to like Salt Lake City West or whatever that are even closer. But anyways, yeah. So just to continue off my mission really quick. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to Albuquerque. You know, it's kind of like in the Book of Mormon musical. You know, he's like, where am I going? The one elder in the beginning. But anyways, I get down there, and it was such a tough thing. I was challenged to want to be there. I'm sorry. Let me just back up really quick about the MTC though. Because, you know, I got the call, going through the motions, we have the farewell, I get into the MTC, and I go, oh my gosh, this is it. I am out here for 2 years. I don't even know what I'm doing. I haven't been studying, you know, preparing and stuff. You know, I've graduated seminary, I've got a church every Sunday and all that kind of stuff. You know, I knew a lot about the scriptures and things, but I just went, this is my job. I got to figure this out. So I went on a binge of reading the Book of Mormon, and I got through the Book of Mormon. It took me through the 2 weeks, and then it was about 4 weeks or so, and I read completely through the Book of Mormon. So in the MTC in the first couple of weeks on my mission, because I was just like, you know, I've got to know this thing if I'm going to be out here. So, and then I really started gaining testimony. But I guess to bring it back now, I went to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to the mission home. But then my mission president, who came out with me, he was brand new along with this group of missionaries. But I got sent to this place. I can't remember now what it was called, Totlakai or something, in this trailer out in the middle of nowhere, like nowhere, on the Navajo reservation. And, you know, I open up the sink cupboards, and there is this mold spore that is grown into like this big of a bush, you know, underneath the sink. And, you know, I had a mattress that was laid out on the floor. There was nothing in this. It was a trailer, a mobile trailer. There was just nothing in there. We had a big potbelly stove, a wood stove that we had in a little kitchen area. But I had my bedroom on one side and my trainer's bedroom on the other. And I laid there on that mattress and just whimpered and cried. And I just said, what have I done? You know, what have I done? And so that was me getting on my mission.
Yeah, the reservation can't be a fun place to be a Mormon missionary.
It was an amazing place.
Or at least at first, right?
It was so ridiculous how unprepared I was to know that people in the United States live like this. You know, it was the most bizarre.
Like this meaning what?
No electricity, no running water. You know, in hogans, in mud houses. I mean, there's still a lot of people, the older people, that live in these mud houses that have, you know, one little window if they've made it, and then just a door. You know, and they all live together as one big family and stuff. But just the desolence of everything was just terrible. You know. It was tough. One thing we skipped over was my temple experience. I don't know.
Was there something important about that?
You know, there's a couple things that I really want to bring up about being a kid, and one was baptisms for the dead. as a youth, everybody's supposed to go and do baptisms for the dead. And I was always this very introverted person. And I did not like to be naked in front of anybody, at school, like I would never shower during school. I just felt like nobody should be seeing my body, and, but when I went in to do baptisms for the dead, they used to make you wear the shield. So you'd get naked, you'd put this little, cloth on that was open on both sides, and then you walked around and get your packet of your jumpsuit, right? And so I went and I did that, and I did the baptisms, and then I came back in, and there's the boys, they're the leaders are there, and they're taking the boys' jumpsuit off of them, right? That's all wet, soaked, and they're taking it off of the boys, these naked boys, which then go right into right next to it where they're throwing the jumpsuits and showering off right there, right? And then they'd go into the little locker room and get changed and come back. And it was such a horrifying experience to me, because I'm just like, why does God want me to be naked? What does me having, now I'm naked in front of my leader. He knows the most intimate parts about my body, when this is supposed to be this glorious temple experience, right? And so I hated it. I just like, this isn't of God to have people be naked in front of other people. It just doesn't make sense. And so I never did baptisms for the dead again. I just didn't like it. I don't know. It was a fun experience with the other kids and everything, but I just hated knowing that these guys are being able to see all these kids get naked, certainly in the world we see each other naked and everything, but I just thought God was different, Anyway, so that was that. My experience with the temple was outrageous, and nobody knows this in my family until now, but I went there and
for your endowment,
for my endowment, yeah, to go on my mission, and it's such a weird experience. Anyways, you go in there, they separate the men and women, and then they tell you, if anybody doesn't want to be here, you can leave. Right? But I'm like, I have no clue what I'm even doing here. I don't know what's going on. What am I supposed to do? And here I am. I'm supposed to be going on this mission. I've got, all my family and friends. I got so many family members there in the temple ceremony with me and everything. And, and so there's that. But I'm sorry, I want to fast forward again, or rewind to the washing and anointing, just because it's that same thing of I'm sorry that I'm not cool with everybody seeing my naked body, but the washing and anointings, again, you get naked. This was at the time. They've changed this now. Thanks a lot.
It's
sorry. Continuing revelation that God can't know that. It's anyways. So you get naked. You put on this shield. And that's it's like a Mexican poncho thing, right? For those that don't know, that's totally open in the sides, and so you're sitting there trying to grab at the sides, while you carry your little packet of your garments that you have, right? Or the new. I guess not. I guess that's not in the washing and anointing. But anyway, so you're trying to hold on to the sides, go into the washing and anointing room. And I got this guy in there, that starts praying on me and taking the oil, right, and dripping it onto my head and touching me all over my body, and going underneath the shield and touching my body, and I am just like, why? What is God doing this to me for, right? Because this guy represents Jesus or God. That this is supposed to be them as proxy for him giving me this. And so I was so, I was traumatized by it. I did not like it at all. It just was so weird that God is having these guys, touch my breast, which doesn't matter. But for women, I'm thinking, you got somebody touching their breast, my stomach, my genital area, I'm like, this is just gross. I don't like it. But anyways, go through it because This is what you're supposed to do. This is the quintessential. This is how we get back to Heavenly Father again as a family. And my family's pushing me. This is it. This is what we do. And so, anyways, then I get into...
Let me just pause.
Yeah.
The listeners... so talking about how difficult parts of your mission was, Sarah writes, as a mom of 2 boys, hearing this breaks my heart. So glad my boys won't feel pressure to go on a mission. Now, a lot of missionaries end up feeling like they're really glad they went. But it starts out really awful.
Yeah.
And there can be really awful things that happen.
Yeah.
So thanks for that comment, Sarah. Cameron writes, the beginning of the endowment ceremony really creeped me out the first time I went through. I didn't feel entirely worthy, but I didn't want to out myself in a room full of people. It was incredibly awkward.
Yeah.
So you're not alone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cameron, for sharing that. Spencer writes, if I could go back in time, I would have loved to just walk out when they asked if anyone doesn't want to be at the temple. But you can't. You're there with probably family and friends and other people.
Yeah.
And they have that out, but who in the crud when they're 19 is going to do that?
Yeah.
So it's manipulation. They should educate you about what you're going to be experiencing and give you the chance then to back out before you're ever there. Not wait till you're there in that special moment.
I agree.
I went to the temple prep classes, and they did not prepare you one bit for what was going to happen.
Fortunately, now the whole temple ceremony is on YouTube.
Yes, thank you, New Noah.
Carrie writes, the initiatory was very difficult for me. That creeped me out too. Amy writes, it's so extremely coercive the way they get young people through the temple. Thank you, Amy. Bethany writes, they should allow you to walk out at the end they should allow you to walk out at the end after everyone is horrified. I don't know what she means by that. Anyway, and then Jesse says, I feel like I was conditioned to accept its weirdness even by my parents. So in that sense, you're kind of gaslit a little bit because everybody's like, it's the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you feel creeped out by people touching you in weird places, it's on you.
It's my fault.
It's
right. This is God's plan. I am not the one. Either I'm feeling guilty, I'm not worthy for some reason, or I just don't understand. And when I was in the endowment ceremony and we were putting on the robes, and this is the first time that I had ever really seen robes, I understood what the robes of the holy priesthood were. I just went, God, this is weird. These are weird clothes we're putting on, the baker's cap and everything. And I'm just like, but I'm looking around and I'm going, okay, I just don't understand it. This is all traditions from thousands of years ago. We don't dress like this. We see the pictures of how they were dressed before and stuff. And so, I just don't get it. I'm going to save not draw any conclusions for now. And this is my first time. Everybody says it takes a while to get used to it and understand it. And, every time I go to the temple, I learn more and all that kind of stuff. So I just went, okay, I'm gonna let it go for now. But then it really got crazy. And that was, the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood. The sign for it, when you're raising your hands above your head and chanting, I went, I'm in a cult.
Were they saying Peleel or did they
no? It was just oh God, hear the words of my mouth. Okay. And but
everybody's up there.
Yeah, everybody's hands are going up and down.
And it's totally Masonic, like it's totally
exactly. Now I had no clue what Masonism was, right? I mean, Masonry, whatever, Masonism. And so we're still all in the rows though, separated. And so I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? But then we do the true order of prayer. And I'm a new initiate, and so they want them to come up, right? And so we come up there, and I've got my mom and dad and brother and sister and some other relatives there. And we're all in this circle, doing the true order of prayer. And then we go and we do all the signs again. And, that's when I just went, I cannot believe I am doing this. I am sitting here chanting, raising my hands above an altar, and repeating a prayer of a guy. This is everything that I've ever seen on TV. This is cults. And I'm going, but my whole family is here. That cognitive dissonance of why do I feel it? So again, it's my problem that I'm feeling this way. I am the one that should feel guilty because everybody else is having the time of their life. They're loving it, you know.
You're not worthy.
So yeah, there's something wrong with me. So anyways, there's my temple experience.
Okay.
It was not the best.
And
All
you
right.
went off on your mission and
Yeah,
sat
and
in
then-
your trailer with mold.
And by the way, you missed the blood oaths and the penalty.
Yes, we did.
I cannot
Yeah.
believe that. You know, and this was just, I went on my mission in 92, so I got my endowments out. I think I got them out right after I was 18, so that was in 91. So just barely, it had barely changed.
Yeah, with
you
the
know?
penalties before, you used to use your hands to show different ways you would kill yourself in a very violent way.
Yeah, yeah.
If you ever revealed,
Yeah.
you know,
The signs and tokens.
The signs and
Yeah.
tokens, yeah.
Yeah, and that I had no clue about that until afterward when we started finding everything out, how much has changed, you know. So, anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay, so you get to Albuquerque. You cry. It's difficult.
you're
We're jumping
baby.
back.
Come
No,
on,
no,
no,
we're
no, no,
jumping
no, no, no.
Non-emotional land.
My mission, my trainer was abusive. He had a very bad temper, and like the potbelly stove, he got mad. He kicked that thing over. He put his hand through a wall. You know, it was crazy. I mean, my first few months was really, really rough. But then I just fell in love with the Navajo people. I fell in love with them. These people have nothing, are just so humble and great, you know. And that's when I fell in love with the Book of Mormon. And so when you say that about a testimony of the church, you know, I really gained that testimony on my mission. And I was so happy to take this book. You know, this is my mission book, my Book of Mormon. It got left in the back of our truck when I was a missionary, and so it got soaking wet in T-Snoss pots. But I kept it to this day because it meant, you know, it's always meant so much to me. But to read the Book of Mormon, to be with the Navajos, and to hear my mission president, which was Keith Sellers, was our mission president. He had a PhD in religion and in religious studies, and he knew the scriptures backwards and forwards, everything about them. And to learn so much about the Book of Mormon and the Navajos and the Lamanites and their history and their story, I loved it so much. I fell in love with the Navajo people, you know, and felt like they're such a great people because of this book. So I gained a testimony of the church, the truthfulness of the church, the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon, really while I was out there on my mission, serving those people. You know, the Navajos were just great. And, you know, I was I won't be derogatory, I'll say I was a good missionary because I baptized 34 people. Most of those people were children of inactives. The Navajos are kind of like all Lamanites. And they're pretty inactive, you know. They're pretty easygoing people, and so they get baptized and then go inactive. But their kids, the Navajos love the Mormons and the Mormon Church, and so we baptize a lot of their kids and younger people, you know. But anyways,
So you received a phone call, 7 months into your mission?
yeah.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
This is something we've never talked about
Yeah.
before.
Publicly.
This is
Yeah.
something that really only Lance and I know.
Yeah. Only
So,
my mission companion at the time knew about it, but it hasn't been talked about.
Okay, so it's
maybe
kind of
my
sensitive?
mom knew.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
This will be maybe a surprise to some people listening.
Yeah.
All right.
Because, you know, sometimes you keep secrets so you can stay faithful. No.
Oh no. Okay.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Yeah, so you can talk about it.
No, go ahead. I don't know.
It starts with you.
It
Yeah.
starts with me, yes.
So
So,
he's on
let's
his
go back to
mission,
me, yeah.
and you're-
Here I am in Ogden,
home.
Utah, devastated because now this boy that I've been with for a year and a half that I'm codependent on him for my happiness. I don't know how to be happy without him. I wanted to go away to college, but didn't. And so he's on his mission, and he's starting to have these great experiences, and he's writing home to me, oh my gosh, I love these people and having fun, and he's out there having a life, and I'm still living at home, going to Weber State, working. I mean, I really didn't have much of a life. Didn't have many friends, and I started feeling really jealous that he was getting this experience. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to wait around for him, then he can wait around for me, and I'm going to go on a mission too. So I started to get into that process of going on a mission, and because you brought up that term of, I'm one of those people who always felt guilty about every single thing I did and wanted to confess and make sure that I had that place in heaven with my family and the people, my dad that I had lost. I felt like I needed to come clean. And so I went to my bishop and told him that I wanted to go on a mission, and he said, is there anything that is not settled in your life? And I said, well, there was this one thing, with Lance before he left, and
that you guys had left out of your confessions?
That I had left out personally, and my bishop at the time asked me, well, is this something that Lance has resolved? And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, I'm obligated to contact his mission president. And so at that point, I just, I thought my world's ended.
Yeah. It was no longer about her.
It wasn't about me going on a mission anymore, and now there's this
Now you're
fear.
worried.
Now I'm worried, and I'm worried that everyone's going to know, and I'm not going to, not just that everyone's going to know, but man, maybe I'm not going to be able to go do this, and is he going to get sent home? And this really breaks the bow that I tied to the church. This is not working. So he then gets in contact with Lance's mission president, and you can take it from there.
Let me just say too, because this is still not having sexual intercourse.
No.
This is just because
heavy petting, I guess, is a good term for it.
It was just that it was. I think what had happened was it would happen after we had basically confessed everything, and I was ready. I was on basically, I was going on my mission, and so I didn't bring it up. Just, hey, we're gonna get rid of that in our life, and I'm gonna
be separate,
a better person. Yeah,
and the problem will be solved.
So then the bishop, again, it's not just about Nicki. It's not just about the person that's confessing and trying to make them be better. It's now, holy cow, we've got a guy that potentially didn't confess everything on his own. We got to go after this. And so her bishop called up, got hold of my stake president, which then immediately called up my mission president. And so my mission president gives me a call up out of the blue. And basically says, I don't really remember it, but he basically said, there's a great possibility that you'll be going home, Elder Miles. And I'm just like, what is going on? I'm out here finally, really having a great time on my mission, really getting involved in the work, loving the people, having great experiences. And now this comes to rock my world. And there's a good possibility I'm going home. So he says that because you had gone to the temple before, you were a Melchizedek priesthood holder, you're out on your mission, you're a missionary now, this has to be taken up to the Quorum of the 12 Apostles to get authorization for you to be able to stay. And so I'm all, okay. And he's like, I'll be calling you back to let you know. I never talked to my parents. They never called me or anything like that. I don't know if they were ever made aware that there was a problem or not.
They never let us know.
Yeah, we've never talked about that at all. But anyways, so I immediately right then started to fast. I was like, okay, I have got to get through this. I cannot be sent home for this. This is so stupid, and I I'm out here doing good and bettering my life and becoming better. And so I started to fast, and I didn't get an answer back. We didn't get the thing resolved for 3 days. So I fasted the entire time. And I'd fast for 24 hours. I'd take a glass of water and then fast again. I'd take another glass of water and fast again. But at the end of that fast, it came back that L. Tom Perry had given authorization for me to be able to stay on my mission. And
isn't it kind of crazy that this is something short of intercourse, and yet you're it's having to get approved by an apostle?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
It is, but I mean, again, what I said,
and then how disrupting it is to your mission. It's something that's clearly in the past, and then you're just trying to go on a mission,
right?
And your whole,
yeah, I'm waiting to see if he's going to stay, because that's going to affect whether I go or not.
And this has just rocked her whole world. That where she was wanting to do something for herself has now just completely screwed over my life potentially. Like coming home from your mission. I mean, we know
it's pretty bad.
It's the worst thing you can do as a Mormon.
It's a hard place to be when you come back early.
Yeah. It is so challenging. So, anyways, but I don't have it exactly right, but I like to say the arbitrary authority that we put over people that we've, allowed to rule over us. It's like the church has no authority over us, but we give it absolute authority. It's just amazing. And then we're grateful to them for, allowing us to do whatever it is for me to stay on my mission. I'm out here paying for this myself. My parents are, they're paying for this service. And there's a chance that because I hadn't come completely forthrightly clean on it, that I should go home, But when you're there, as missionaries, you believe. I mean, the guilt is so heavy on you that you have to follow every rule. That people's salvation is contingent on you being a faithful member. And so, that's a lot of guilt and to hang on to, a lot of responsibility. That if I'm not the very most faithful missionary, there's a chance that Satan could get that person and make them not want to be a member, and they go to hell for all eternity because of me. So
is this like massive conflict for you guys?
Well, it was for our relationship
and individually. Were you tormented individually?
Oh, yeah. It was so stressful. I don't even know how to explain it. I just was dumbfounded and devastated, This is not what I thought.
It was like this one little sentence made this chain reaction that you couldn't get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end, and by the way, fasting 3 days is not a trivial deal.
No, it was not. It was not.
That can reach the point of medical implications by that point. So anyway, so you did end up getting, L. Tom Perry comes through.
Yeah, he comes through, and he's always been my favorite apostle since then. For 20 years, whenever I hear L. Tom Perry, I'm just like, hey, there's my guy,
He took care of me.
Us.
Yeah, he took care of me. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, so you're able to finish out your mission. Anything else about your mission you want to say?
Well, there's a couple experiences on it that I would love to talk about. One of them was dealing with a potentially one of the three Nephites.
Nice.
We had a gentleman out of the blue. I was stationed in Kayenta, Arizona, and we were in this little, not even a fifth wheel, just a regular travel trailer is what we lived in. It was just horrific, the conditions. It was great. But this guy comes up, knocks on the trailer. He had been up. We lived in the church's parking lot. We had a senior missionary couple next to us in a trailer next to ours. He comes down, knocking on our doors, saying, "I want to be baptized." And we're like, "Okay, we don't know who you are. Have you been working with anybody?" He's like, "No." He So I've been traveling. I have nothing. I was out on the road hitchhiking when out of the blue a guy came up to me and started walking with me, and we started talking about things. And he handed me a Book of Mormon and told me that I should read it and get baptized. And then the guy like just went away. I don't remember everything, but it was so crazy. Like, oh my gosh, this had to be one of the 3 Nephites. And so for, again, those people who don't know about Mormonism, in the Book of Mormon, when Christ comes to the Americas, he sets up the church just like he does in the New Testament. He calls apostles. 3, and he asks the apostles, what do they want, right? If I could basically give you one wish, what would it be? And 3 of the apostles say to stay, how do they put it? To stay living on the earth until Christ comes again. And so he supposedly grants them that desire, and we've got 3 2,000-year-old guys living on the earth. And so, this experience just went to, holy cow, that was one of the 3 Nephites. That is crazy, And so the guy, we do a quick run through on the discussion, and he gets baptized in a week, and then he leaves to go back home, like in Kansas or something like that. So, and he takes off again. But it was just one of those things that was just such a weird thing that just totally sounded like, that you hear the stories of the 3 Nephites, and how they do these elusive acts of kindness, So, anyways,
that's still part of our doctrine. These doctrines about John the Beloved still living,
right? Yeah.
The 3 Nephites still walking around thousands of years later,
and don't forget Cain.
And Cain's still roaming the earth, and we haven't gotten rid of that.
Yeah.
But then, do we really believe it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we have to, right? If we're going to take the Book of Mormon literally and everything, then we have to believe that there's these 3 guys that do what? Like, it doesn't make any sense when you start to think about it, because you would think that they would be heading up the church. They got 2,000 years of wisdom that they could give us. They met Christ himself, Yeah. They'd be pretty powerful witnesses. Where are they? Anyways, we wouldn't have faith then. So they would give us too little faith.
Let's not be true.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, any other story?
No, I don't know. Yeah, go
on your mission?
Yeah, I just want to look really quick for my mission.
Okay, so did they ever come back to you and say, hey, you can or can't go? How did it get resolved with you, Nicki?
Me.
Okay.
I think it was I don't know if they gave you permission to call or if you just called, but he called and said, I get to stay. And I remember sitting on the side of my bed, just feeling this rush of relief, that, oh my gosh, we dodged a bullet, we can still move forward. And so I moved forward with getting ready to go on my mission and go down to the MTC for a month and have some real emotional, psychological struggles at that point. Lance kind of stopped writing because I think he was kind of ticked at me.
Yeah.
I think he was
Did you stop writing her for that reason?
A little bit, yeah.
I was pretty frustrated, that
and all you're doing is being honest.
I was.
Yeah.
I was just trying
You
to...
want to be with your dad someday,
forever.
and so you're not going to be lying to your bishop.
I can't do
right?
it. Yeah. So I think that it definitely tore us. And so now I'm in the MTC. The man that I'm in love with and dependent on doesn't like me anymore because I was a good girl, and now I'm at the MTC and alone, and because I confessed.
I only like the bad ones.
So, I really struggled emotionally at the MTC, wondering if this is what I really wanted to do. Should I be here? Should I not? I struggled with the language. I missed home a little bit, but it was, at that point, it was nice to get out and be on my own for the first time, and be outside of my home. I had gotten an apartment for a few months, but then it flooded and I ended up having to go move back home. So my one attempt of trying to get out and do something on my own kind of failed. And so then now I'm here at the MDC feeling, okay, I don't miss my family too much. This is exciting, but my boyfriend's not writing and I'm codependent on him emotionally. And so it's just tearing me apart, going, I don't know what's happening, you know? And I went to a counselor there, and they counseled me for a few times and gave me some good tips and, hey, try this and try that, and I said okay. And so I'd try it for a day or two, and then I'd go back to them. I'm questioning, and they pulled out a letter from the first presidency that said, sisters, we appreciate your service in the church. We love our sister missionaries, but know that your first priority is to be a wife and a mother in Zion. And so the counselor was good. She said, you're choosing between two good things. If you go home and try to reconcile with your boyfriend when he gets home, and you get married in the temple, that is a good choice, okay? And so that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for that. And I wasn't really wanting to go out of the country. I was wanting the experience. I was at the age where most people are experiencing that, and I wasn't. And so when I decided to choose between two good things, I chose that I wanted to go home. And so then they called my bishop and my mom and my stepdad at the time, and my bishop, my mom, and my stepdad came down to the MTC, and I sat at the end of a table with probably my mom and the counselor, and then I think 7 priesthood leaders, including my bishop. And they started at one end of the table and went around, and each person told me why they thought I should stay. And my mom just reminded me of this story, and I just want to give appreciation to my stepdad for doing this, because it was powerful when he was the last one, and everybody had got done taking their turn, saying their thing, and they said, well, Camp, what do you think? And he looked at me and he said, Nicki, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go home. And he said, then you're going to go home. I was not emotionally, psychologically, in any way ready to go serve a mission. I was torn up. I was still going through trying to figure out my dad's death and mourning and where I was, and then all this guilt. I just was a confused 21-year-old girl, you know? I was very confused. 19? Wait, how old was I? 21. I just was, So I came home, and I thought, okay, I'm going to just go back and get a job. And they said at the MDC, just give us a call. If you feel like you want to come back, all the paperwork is done, your visa's in line to get processed, and if you go home, just take a break and think about it, and if you decide you want to come back, then we'll let you come back. And so I came home and started working again, and then Lance came home from his mission. And at this point, we had not been communicating very much at all, because I think that
I was really frustrated that she came home, because I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think he was excited to come home without me there, because he wasn't as codependent on me at that time, because he had gone out and served a mission and grown and learned, and so I feel like he was kind of excited for me to be gone so he could do his thing and move on, and plus he also felt like it would be a really good thing for me to go out and serve a mission, because I was not growing. I wasn't
branching out and doing my thing. So yeah, I came home.
I just have to note, and this is a theme that we'll probably cover
Okay.
at the end too, but you're just this girl who's living everyone else's life for you. Your dad dies, so you're trying to be the good daughter to your mom. You're trying to be the good older sister to your younger siblings. You're trying to be righteous in the church. You got a boyfriend now, so he's on a mission. Now he wants you to go on a mission, and so you're gonna go on the mission. And maybe you wanted to go to school, but it just how that must have felt. And you probably even weren't aware.
No.
Everyone had their marionette strings.
No, I wasn't aware, and nobody intentionally did that either. I want it clear that I don't blame anybody, like my parents or the church or anything for my experience. That was my experience, and I'm going to choose to learn from that and move on. And hopefully, and this is the only reason I'm doing this, because I get petrified talking in front of people. If it can help one person out there that feels trapped, that feels tied up, that's my hope. That's my hope that will happen. So,
because looking back, what was happening to you, if you had to restate that dynamic?
What was happening to me at that point?
Just overall, what was your life about?
Doing everything the right way.
For who?
For everyone, so they could not worry about me.
Everyone except who?
Me. Everyone. And it wasn't, and then I got married, and it was for him. You know, I gave everything to him. Then I had kids, and hello. I mean, that's, every mother gives everything to their children. So,
it's like the giving tree, right? You're like the giving tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, so here I am, this confused 21-year-old confused girl, and Lance comes home, and of course we see each other, and we just are like, I love you, you know. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is who I want to be with. But then, come to find out, there was somebody else thought he was pretty awesome too. So she followed him kind of home from his mission and pursued.
So after all that, Lance,
pursued him.
You're thinking about another woman at this point.
Yeah.
She came home from her mission.
I was supposed to be gone.
I mean, she's not doing things right. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You were disappointed that she came home.
I was disappointed completely that she came home.
Yeah.
And so that, because I knew our relationship as teenagers, how dependent we were on each other, and I really did. I was able to break away from that dependency on my mission, and I grew so much, even though it was such a hard challenge. I got a lot of growth out of it, and so when Nicki decided, that she wanted to go on a mission, I was so excited for her because I knew that it would help her grow so much. And so when she came home, I was devastated by it, because I just I didn't care about what people talked about. It's just her own personal growth that she would have had by being forced into situations that are not comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was pretty disappointed in that. And I wanted her to be out on her mission, but she had this real fear that I was going to come home and not wait for her and get married, and she would.
And how could I even imagine losing the one person that I am emotionally dependent on? And how unfair to do that to somebody, to be so emotionally dependent on somebody that they don't have room to live their life.
Yeah, it was a tough situation, and again, this is kind of been in our marriage is tough things in our marriage that we've had to deal with. Yeah. But so I served 20 months out on the Navajo reservation, have incredible times, learned so much, and then the last 4 months I go back to Albuquerque, and I am among the mean whiteys again, and I at that point I hate white people. Like, I have become Navajo. I got I got this fake adopted into a Navajo family that I would just, it was so much a part of my life. I just love those people so much. It still is. No, it is. It absolutely is. And so, but I go back to Albuquerque and I'm trying to, be around the whiteys. And, one quick experience, we're walking up the road and this big old truck comes up and these guys throw a salt shaker out of the truck. They're probably going 40 miles an hour, and it, boom, hits right on my leg and blows up and creates this huge, welt on my leg and bruise. And, I just hated white people. I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this? Coming from the Navajos, they would give you the shirt off the, they would weave you a shirt. They're such kind-hearted people. And back to this, but there was a great family there that we really got involved with, and we were trying to baptize one of their friends. But the gal was she was younger but kind of our age, and we really started having a lot of lights for each other in the end there. Yeah. And again, Nicki and I are not doing good at all. And
well, you came home and things felt good, but it was awkward.
Yeah,
it was different.
It was awkward.
And it was,
but I had her and her sister come, and they're beautiful singers and play the piano and stuff, and so I had them come to play at my homecoming.
All the way from New Mexico.
Yeah, from New Mexico, and a Navajo family that I'd really gotten close to in Page, Arizona. They came up too, and so anyways, so I had this quick and sorry Celeste, I really screwed up. I'm just saying that, but she was the one that followed me home. I know you don't care, but I always felt bad. No, she was just a white girl, but
ward there.
She had family up here.
Wasn't a missionary though.
No. She was. Her dad was the bishop of the ward that we were serving in, and then they had family up here, so she was up here a lot, anyways, and stuff. But anyway, so I started to go out with her and stuff, but then. So I want to just say this about going by. I don't know. Do you have anything else before?
Go ahead.
Okay. So things aren't good with Nicki, and but then so this gal, she goes back home for a while, and Nicki's wanting to go out with me and stuff, and I'm not liking it because I want to break off and let Nicki have her individuality for a while, and I have mine, but then. I'll just say this because I haven't said this to you. But we were at her mom's house and they had a swimming pool, and so I'm sitting out there on the lawn chair in the swimming pool, and again, we're not dating, we're not back together at all yet. But and she's out there on a little floaty thing in her bikini on her stomach, and I'm just like looking at her in her lives, and I was like, oh my god, wow, I love that girl, I love her, and so as hard as it was, that I didn't want to be with her because I wanted her to grow. I wanted myself to grow. I was excited to have some individuality,
some experiences.
Yeah, some experiences. But in that, that day at your mom's house, I just was like, gosh, I can't let go of this girl. It's tough. So anyways.
So at that point, he was giving me hot and cold, and I was like, I don't know what's going on with this guy. He's in love with me, yet he's going off and dating somebody else. And so I thought, okay, I'll just go back on my mission. I'm going to just do this. Let him do him, and I'm going to go do me and be strong and confident. And we went out on a couple dates, and of course, 20-something years old, you're going to be snuggling and kissing and hugging and back to our old ways and back to naturally, in my opinion now, is a way to naturally connect with somebody and have a relationship. But again, no intercourse, but decided to go back on my mission and went down to the MTC. I was reassigned to the San Fernando, California mission to wait for my visa to go to the Philippines. And then again, with the guilt and wanting to be with my dad, wanting to eventually have an eternal companion, wanting to go along with the plan, you know? And so went down there and felt guilt and went in and
to the MTC.
Went to the MTC. I was there for a week and couldn't live with the guilt. And so went in and said, I need to confess something. I don't believe it will keep me from going home, but I need to get it off of my chest. The priesthood authority that interviewed me proceeded to have me tell in full detail what went on between us physically in full detail. Like, I was humiliated, I was embarrassed, and it wasn't the first time I had felt that way from a priesthood leader. He was very rude, he was very unloving, not compassionate, just, nope, Sister Miles, you are going home. And so I called up my mom, and I apologize to all those who I've told this story to differently, because that fact hasn't always been out that I got sent home that second time because I had made out with my boyfriend before I left.
You felt like you had to lie.
I did. Because I wanted that. I wanted an out. I wanted an exit to grow and live my life. But so I made out with Lance, went down to the MDC, confessed that in full detail, everything I did. They send me home. I call my mom. She comes down and gets me. She sends me home, or she takes me home, and on my way home I said I need to go call Lance and let him know. So I called Lance and said, they're sending me home from the MTC, and he basically said, okay, well, I want to get married. And so
what did you tell your mom as a reason? Did you give your mom a reason?
I believe I told my mom the real reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe,
but there were some people
my mom knows pretty much all.
Okay. But you're saying there's some people you weren't truthful with?
Yes, yeah.
Who was that?
Everybody else.
What did you tell them?
That I just decided that I wanted to get married and that I would come home, and we decided that we wanted to get married, and so nothing else was said because I didn't want the embarrassment, I didn't want the humiliation. Nobody else, I didn't want anyone else to know because I'm prideful.
Of course.
And because I wanted to stay on
How about because it's private?
Yeah, how about that? How about that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's private.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I totally just kept that, spun it a different way that would make me fit the mold better. But yeah, so came home, and then we were married 6 months later.
And you weren't disappointed in her the second time?
Well, at that time I was back into it.
Even though you were doing it with her just
I know. I was just back into her. I was just like, let's just do it. Let's, it's... A mission would be great, but this isn't going to work, Obviously, I mean, she's coming. I said, no, you need to stay. And she's like, no, I'm coming home. And so I'm just like, okay, well, then let's get married, let's do this, And one of those things, Nicki has dated a lot of guys and stuff, but I only dated a couple of girls, my entire growing up. And so... I
definitely, we were not ready for marriage by any means. I wasn't ready for a mission. I wasn't in any state to be ready to be married and start having kids. It just was not healthy.
Yeah.
It was not emotionally healthy for me.
Yeah.
And I just want to note all this epic drama, and no one ever had sex.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Isn't
Right.
that kind of crazy?
Right.
A little crazy?
Right.
You know, at
And
the
all
time,
these men wanting details about what two teenagers are
I'll
doing.
tell you what. When we were young, before my mission, and Nicki confessing some of our escapades, I just could not believe what the bishops were asking her to confess. The details of it. Not just, I was with a guy, but okay, now how were you with a guy? Did you have clothes on? Were you
Did both
dry
of you
humping?
climax?
Yeah.
Did one of you climax?
I
Did
mean-
you? I mean, it was full detail. Where did he touch you? Was it with clothing or without clothing?
And then what happened?
And
Exactly.
how
Then
did he
what
touch
happened?
you?
Yeah.
And here I am, a young girl going through this. At least once a year, I'm promiscuous because I'm trying to fill this void of my dad. It wasn't the right way to do it, but
It's also totally natural.
I would go be promiscuous. And
And then there's that word promiscuous.
I know.
Right.
Which
Instead
is,
of, like,
I know,
loving and-
exactly.
like normal,
Intimate.
So
normal
negative
Normal.
teenage
connotation.
feelings
Yeah.
and how to deal with them. And so, yeah,
It was tough. Our teenage years were really tough for both of us.
well, and then it didn't lend for a good path for marriage and raising kids.
Why is that?
Because I don't feel like I really chose it. Like, I feel like it was the plan and that was the next step and that's just what you did. But like I was talking about my bows, I feel like every time I would tie a bow to the church that would connect me and keep me anchored to the church, it would, that gap would close where I wouldn't have an opportunity to even entertain other thoughts. When I was in the MTC and it's a choice between two good things, I didn't even allow myself to entertain any other options when there were thousands of options I could have done as a 21-year-old girl
go to
in
Europe.
the position
Exactly.
I was in.
You could go to Europe.
But
you
I
could
was
travel
so,
the States.
that bow
you could,
was so tight that I could not, I didn't have that space to think and go, what is it that I truly believe? What is my moral compass? What is it what are the values I think are important? What do I want to gain? Where are my qualities? Where it wasn't all about me. It was about the plan. And it was about doing the next step and doing what was right, because that's what was going to make me happy and that's what was going to keep me connected to my family forever.
So more and more bows being tied on.
Yeah. Constricting
And-
her more and more.
and
But
the
boy, she
marriage-
looked lovely.
Boy, the
All
marriage
tied up in bows.
The marriage was the biggest one. And then the kids. It's like you just get more and more and more, and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and that gap gets closer and closer and closer. I look back. Sure, I had opportunities, and do some LDS women take advantage of that opportunity when that window is open? Of course they do. There's women out there that have master degrees and do this and that and are business women and whatnot, all the things that I didn't choose to do. But I'm happy for them that gap was not as tight for them as it was for me, because it gave them opportunity to see what else was out there, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there.
So this feels like a natural kind of break for the first part of the interview. I think the next big thing is to talk about your dad. Is there any quick...
I guess just a couple more things. One thing about missions and an interesting thing. My sister wanted to go on a mission really, really bad. My second older sister.
You have to be careful what you talk about, though.
Yeah.
We just want to be respectful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it's really important to your story.
It was important to me becoming a missionary because she wanted to go on a mission, and she was, at the time, I think she was 19 or maybe even 20. And so, at the time, you had to be 21. And
oh, yes.
And so she sent in to the First Presidency or whatever to get special permission to be able to go a year early on her mission, and they denied her that, and then she ended up going and going to Wyoming and getting with a guy and getting pregnant. And it was devastating to our family. I mean, and it was devastating to her. And again, this thing that should be celebrated even, getting pregnant and bringing another life into the world. It was so hard for us, but
it was celebrated.
It was. And we, I think, we're as good as we could be as conservative Mormons, for her being pregnant out of wedlock. But to me personally, it really hit me because I was going on my mission for my sister. I was going to go out there and be that missionary that she couldn't be, and I'll say my disappointment to her. I was very disappointed that my sister would give up going on a mission and go and get pregnant. The guilt and the shame that I put her through for that, and it's frustrating to me at this point, looking back, how arbitrary that was. They just want women to go and get married. You don't become an independent person, because I think even, did you go on a mission, Margie? Okay, even sister missionaries go out there, they become more independent, as a missionary, and I think that every sister, the women should have to go on missions just like the guys.
Well, now they are. So you got your wish.
And they really are now that but it's still, why is it still 19 instead of 18? The girl, because they lowered the age to now be 18 for guys, but they still have to make women different. Right? They still have to you have to go at 19. You can't go at 18. But now, because it's 19, a lot more women are going. But anyways, the arbitrariness of it, and we know this for temple sealings at the same time. How guys seem to get temple sealings so much easier than it is for canceled, temple sealing canceled, than it is for a woman to get it canceled. And
it's because a guy can be sealed to multiple women.
Right.
But a woman, if she's sealed to a man, has to ask permission.
But even then, if he wants to get unsealed to a lady, I think that is given more than it is for
only
women.
If she is getting sealed to someone else. But they'll tend to want to not allow it.
Gotcha.
They'll tend to want to say, keep their first marriage, go ahead and get married in the second.
Yeah.
If the first woman doesn't have someone else to be sealed to.
You don't like that.
My wife's loving that.
That's so Nicky.
So what else about your story before we talk about
I'm sorry. Let me just go back to here real quick, just to, if we're just finishing up.
You don't need to cover everything.
I know. No, I hear you. I just want to make sure that I got. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I got them all. Oh, a couple more things on my mission that was kind of funny. My mission president being very stalwart in the oh my gosh, a couple of things. I'm sorry.
Slow down.
Okay, sorry. What?
We won't be able to cover everything.
I know, but
so just talk about the most important.
Okay, this one was important to me because they're all important to me. I'm just kidding. When I was in Gallup, we got with a family that was Pentecostal, I think is what they were, but they invited us to a church meeting of theirs. And so my companion and I, we went to this meeting, and during the meeting, they started speaking in tongues. So somebody would get up and start speaking all this gibberish, right? And then another person would get up and they would interpret the gibberish for them. And I turned to my companion, and we were kind of laughing at each other, because we were like, this is not how God works. We know this is not God doing this. This is from Satan, because we know that speaking in tongues is you actually speak in somebody else's language that they understand you, right? That's our traditional way of understanding the speaking in tongues. And so I was so, perplexed by why they think that that's coming from God, right? Now, I'm not going to say anything more about that until later on. But that was a big, an eye-opening thing to me that man, people think some really weird things, you know. And then another thing with the same family, they were really religious, and so we got into a Bible bashing thing. We actually had our mission president come to them for a meeting to talk about the scriptures. And one thing that was on my shelf that you know I never thought about until you know our end part was you know in the Bible it says that the everlasting gospel will be from the everlasting mountains or never-ending mountains or whatever. And supposedly in Mormonism, we believe that's from, you know, the Alaska down to the tip of South America. Like there's, you know, the Rocky Mountain range. That range goes through the entire continent. So from sea to sea, it's never ending. That's the way it's interpreted. So, you know, we go through this Bible bashing thing, and then we get back. Well, the guy calls up our mission, you know, our apartment, and he says, "Hey, I was talking to my, you know, pastor or whatever, and he says that everlasting mountain range is actually these mountains that are in a circle over in Europe, you know, that are in a circle." And, you know, at the time, I just like, I hate the Bible, that it's been interpreted so many times that, you know, it's not a good testament of Jesus Christ because it can be interpreted to anything, you know. But that was just another eye-opening thing to me that somebody can interpret things differently, you know. Anyways, that'll be more into my cracks later on. But and then just one last thing about my mission. We almost got to know, I think, that Jesus at least had one wife, if not multiple wives, on our mission. Our mission president was gonna like really give us some meat, but then Elder Kirby, he's all, I can't keep a secret, because he did not. He's all, if you the things I'm going to show you, this is not for, you know, the regular members. This is something that is very special that only, you know, you guys, I want to share with you guys. And he's also, you have to be able to keep it a secret. And my R1 mission, he's like, I can't keep a secret.
So he didn't tell you.
That's the only thing I didn't tell us. But it was going to be on how Christ was actually married, because it's such an integral part in Mormon theology, right? So
how'd you find out if he didn't tell you?
Well, because we were talking, the topic was about marriage, and I can't remember, but it was focused on marriage and Christ, and we were, I don't know, we were just discussing about the you know, sealing ceremony and stuff, and so he's like, you know, he's really getting into it. He's like, let me show you something, and then but because that missionary, you know, wasn't going to be able to open up or keep his mouth closed, we didn't get it. So, anyways, I think that's about it.
Okay. So no, it's good. We just want to make sure we have time for everything. Yeah. So that's great. Is the next part about your dad? Well, so we go into just quickly about our marriage. We got married in the Manti Temple, and in January 5th, 1995. And so I guess we'll say this. January 5th, 1995, we get married in the temple. We have Hayden, our firstborn son, in 1997, in March 25th, Hayden, 1997. And there we can quit it for right now, because then it gets into my dad.